We got a couple buys here. I'll go first. My first guy on the list is a guy I've talked about many times on this podcast, but since we're going to kick off the year with a buy, I just got to refresh. Maybe we got some new listeners out there, some new watchers on the YouTube channel. Yeah, I know. I'm ugly. No need to tell me about it. J.K. Dobbins. So I have bought him.
Ooh.
I bought him everywhere. You know what I mean? I'm getting him everywhere I can. I inquired about him in another league today. The guy said he's off limits. So I'm like, okay, buddy, not a big deal. But why do I love J.K. Dobbins so much? Let me get into it. So let's start with just this 2021 season where he did not play because he tore his ACL before the season started. So Devontae Freeman didn't really even become the guy until week 9. From week nine was the first time he ever got over 10 carries. Before that, like week 2, we got 2 carries. Week 3, 3. Week 4, 4. Week 5, 1. Week 6, 9. Week 7, 4. So not much. Right. From week 9 on, he got at least 10 carries. Now, in weeks 15, he only got 6. Week 16, he only got 6. Week 18, he only got 5. And he only had a total of 6 touchdowns. Where do you guys think Devontae Freeman finished from week 9 on? So from week 9 to 18 in fantasy football and PPR leagues. Where would you guess?
9 to what? What week? Sorry,
9 to the end.
9 to the end.
Yeah. So
second half of the season.
Second half of the season, PPR leagues, Devontae Freeman. And those stats I just gave you. Like, well,
20. I was gonna say 23.
Running back 18.
Okay. Right.
So smack in the middle, running back 2. Now, we can all admit, Devontae Freeman's not fresh legs out there. He's not anywhere to go.
He's like 5 years from fresh legs.
So we saw that if you throw an old guy into this offense who has a very little, has capabilities of pass catching, he can finish as a running back 2, as running back 18. And this is a team that we know in Baltimore, they love to run the football. Nobody honestly loves to run the football more. This year, they were 3rd in rushes in the league. Right behind Philadelphia and Tennessee were tied for first. They averaged 32.4 carries per game. Baltimore averaged 30.4. But in 2020, Baltimore, first in the league in rushes with 34.6 per game. 2019, first in the league in rushes, 36.8. 2018, first in the league in rushes with 33.5. 2017, 7th in the league with 28.8. So this is a team that loves to run the football. So we say this all the time. Even with Devontae Freeman, a lot of these runners, just usage is the key, right? Mm-hmm. Use them. They get you fantasy points. It produces. So if I can get a running back that's going to go to the number 1 rushing team in the league, then I'm extremely intrigued right off the get-go. J.K. Dobbins. What does J.K. Dobbins get you? 5'9", 209 yards. And if you don't remember, his last year at Ohio State, 301 rushes, 2,003 yards rushing, 21 touchdowns, good for 6.7 yards per carry, 23 receptions, 247 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns. This is a kid that never ran for under 1,000 yards his 3 years at Ohio State. He can catch the ball well, had a total of 71 receptions at Ohio State. And Ravens running backs last year had a total of 61 receptions. So there's opportunity there for him in the passing game as well. Say if he's a main 3-down running back in that offense, which right now there's no incumbent really. Like you're not worried about Devontae Freeman coming in there. And
it would be Gus Edwards because Gus Edwards also had the injury.
Also got
he
hurt.
would be the one that would come back.
Gus Edwards coming back. Gus Edwards is again a good player, but doesn't overly worry me in passing game. Doesn't overly worry about Dobbins' talent at all. And this is a guy who, in college, he faced 8 top 25 run defenses in college and still got it done. 13-11 versus those defenses, average over 6 yards per carry. A guy who can cut at full speed on a dime. Looks like he's in the Matrix. He's a 3-down threat.
By the way, that new Matrix movie is terrible.
It's terrible.
I have not seen it.
It is terrible.
It was brutal. It was
vision. Processes information quickly, excellent in the short game area, can cut on a dime. This is a guy who goes north, south, east to west in a heartbeat. Good receiver, really good in space. I
hope he doesn't go south too much, personally.
I hope not either. But a runner that I just loved coming out of college. I mean, it was him and DeAndre Swift. We had his 1-2 before the whole draft shakeup where JT jumped him, and then Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah, forget about that one.
To me, right now,
still time on that one, all right? There's still time.
J.K. Dobbins is not
going to have some good seasons.
But he's not a running back that's going to come cheap, right? Like, this isn't a buy like, ooh, this is a buy low. But he can be had. And I know because I've been buying him throughout the whole season.
What have you been paying? Because I had a deal available to me. I ended up not going through with it, but I'm not sure how I feel about it. So I'm curious as to what you paid.
I'd have to go back and look. I literally got him in 3 different leagues.
Just like roughly.
One league was I gave up Saquon, OBJ, Pat Freiermuth, and I got back, this is way before he even blew up, Deebo Samuel and J.K. Dobbins.
Ooh.
Guy was making a title
That worked
push.
out.
Yeah, he was making a title push. It worked out really well.
Yeah.
And I got 23 first. I don't want to mention it as well. There's another league I traded for him in, and I can't remember.
I
think
some in the trade browser.
it was same thing. It was I gave a running back that was playing playoff push for what do you got in the trade browser for us?
Superflex League, Baker Mayfield for JK and 2 seconds in 2022.
Okay.
I would do that.
Justin Jackson and a 2022 first for JK.
Oh, that's cheap.
That's real cheap. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
gross.
A 23 first for JK and Amon-Ra St. Brown. And these are all within the last 4 days.
Seriously? Okay, so here was the deal that I was going back and forth with that I almost pulled the trigger on last second, decided not to because it was just too rich and I wasn't quite sure my team was good enough to acquire that kind of piece because he's still a running back as much as I love him. It was 223 firsts to get J.K. Dobbins. And it was really, like, I almost pulled the trigger at the last thing. I was
Late
like,
first?
there will probably be mid.
Okay.
I'm seeing a lot of like 23 first just for JK.
Just one.
I offered a guy today.
I would do one all day.
I offered a guy
Me too.
today. I was like, hey, I'll give you a 23 first, 23 seconds, one of them his back, which I expect to be mid to low. And I was like, and a little something else on top for JK. Just want to let you know. I just want to see if that like tickles your fancy. And he's
Right.
like, no, I'm good.
And that's the thing. Like I think there's a huge range of outcomes here for his trade value just based on leagues. You could be just giving up 1 first, you could be giving up 2 first, and it's kind of iffy, or it could be like serious heat, and the guy just doesn't even look at it. So I think he's a very polarizing player. I got him earlier in the year, right when he got injured, and it was in a super flex league, and the guy was super happy. I got him for 1 first, and the guy was just happy to get a first back for him at that point. So
I'm assuming he was probably a contender and needed a running back or something like that.
He definitely was, but it's just one of those things where, or it might have been Chris Carson in a first. I think it was Chris Carson in a first, and I was fine with that as well.
Yeah.
So you gave him nothing in the first.
Yeah.
Because you were probably a rebuild team.
I was.
Yeah.
At the time, I ended up competing and getting into the playoffs and kind of giving up
Doing
on my
doing better than you thought.
Yeah. But anyway,
I did it in a league and won it.
Did you really? Like accidentally made the playoffs and ended up winning it all?
Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but
yes, you did.
It was like week 4 or 5, and I lost like 4 in a row. And I was like, you know what? Forget this trade team. I got blowed up. I thought I was a contender. I wasn't. I traded away like DeAndre Hopkins, something else. Got some good players back. I had a Najee. Ended up making the playoffs. Ended up winning the whole league.
That's fun.
After I announced I was blowing it up, but sorry.
No, I mean, I guess the whole point of what I was saying is if you're in, this goes for any one of the buys today. If you're in one of these leagues where you're getting them at the low end value that we're talking about, like 1 first, you should be slamming the accept button on a trade like that. And some of the other things you're going to have to think through and, put them in the trade calculator, put them in those kind of things to see if it works out better for your team. But if it's on the low end on any of the guys we're talking about, slam the accept button right away.
I'm willing to pay market value for him. Like whatever people think is like the high. Like I said, I offered the 223 seconds and the first, and I was like, hey, I'll give you a little something on top too. I mean, it's like a dispersal draft going on. I'm like, you can go in there and take whoever you want. Kenny Galladay. Whoever you want. That's how much I believe in Dobbins. Right. I think Dobbins has a potential to finish as a mid-range to high-end running back 1. If he gets the touchdowns, he's involved in that passing game. Say he catches, 70% of those 61 passes, come away with like 40 catches for 350 yards, and he rushes for another 1,200 and gets about 7 touchdowns, maybe 2 in the passing game. We're talking about a mid-range to high-end running back 1 that he offers that potential.
So let me ask you this with the market value conversation going on. What is market value for him? Because you threw the term out. I'll pay market value for him. What in your eyes is market value?
I would have no pay. I would prefer definitely if I'm a contender, right? Because I hate buying even running backs. So I'm not a contender whatsoever. I would be happy to pay 2 firsts. I'd be happy to give up my 22 first, and say my 22 first is pick 10. And my 23 first, figuring that J.J. Dobbins would be a difference maker, and I have like 23-11, 23-12. So to me, 2 late first, no matter how good the draft class is, over a very young running back 1, like that's all day. Because at any point, if my team, I think the kind of season I predict Dobbins to have, which is what I just mentioned, I think that's like the average potential. It could do even better. Maybe hit the 1,400 yards. Probably not, but you never know.
Well, it's definitely possible.
Definitely all purpose. To me, if anything falls out from under me in this league, I'll be able to ship Dobbins for equal value if he's putting up those numbers easily, if not even a little bit more on top. Maybe those 2 firsts plus a little something on top. Maybe there'll be another injured player if he produces. It's always risky buying running backs. I understand that too, but we saw this year. It's not this year. It's every single year. There's a need for running backs.
Well, I think we've also gotten to the point where we've almost, not quite, but we've almost started valuing the PPR points too much. Like this year is a great example. Nick Chubb missed 3 games. He only played 14 games. And in PPR, he still finished as running back 13 overall in the season. And we know that he was splitting time in the beginning of the year with Kareem Hunt. Ernest Johnson took some late. And he still finished as RB13. We've seen Derrick Henry for multiple seasons now not get a ton of passing volume, but still be very effective. Yes, I think J.K. Dobbins will be on the lower end of the spectrum when it comes to the passing volume. I think, 40-45 would be awesome, but I think it could be as low as 30-35 as well catches. But even there, I think we're still talking about a guy that is going to be an RB1 next season and probably for the next 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah, and that holds its weight in gold, especially in Dynasty. So that's what I'm going to pay. That's my high-end version of what I pay. I prefer not to pay that because I think you can get less. I think more fair. And it all depends. I think now's a good time as we get closer and closer, as he gets healthier and healthier, obviously that price will go up. But I think another prime time to buy J.K. Dobbins, if you can't buy him today, would be during your rookie draft, right? Yeah. Where people are getting really excited about these players. That's where I think the peak value where you're able to get the most for that 2022 first and not dip into that 23 first value, because then, say you have pick 1-5, 1-6, and you're like, people are in love with Jameson Williams or people are in love with Treylon Burks, and they're there and like, man, what do you want for this pick? And I'm looking at that J.K. Dobbins owner. I'm like, dude, give me J.K. Dobbins. I'm like, oh, I can't do that. But I'll give you my 23-second too. So I'm giving you 1-5 in my 23-second. And there's a chance J.K. Dobbins could finish better than every single person in that 22 class.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I know you guys haven't watched a ton of Breece Hall, Isaiah Spiller, the bigger names in the class. But Jared, I know you've watched a decent amount so far. Today, would you, or let's say it gets to draft day, you have the 101, and let's say it's Breece Hall at the time. That is pretty much the consensus 101. Would you trade Breece Hall straight up for J.K. Dobbins, or would you rather have Breece Hall?
I'd have to see what team he goes to for sure, and where he gets drafted. But that's really tough. I think I'd take Breece Hall.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's fair.
Interesting.
And I wouldn't expect anybody to give up 1-1 for J.K. Dobbins.
I would. I'd give up 1-1 straight up.
I would give up 1-1 straight up as well too. Yep. But again, I like what Jared said too though. Where does he go?
Right. We have time to decide that.
But here's a counterpoint to that though. Where does he go? There's not a whole lot. We got so excited about JT going to the Colts with the offensive line and running it. I mentioned this before. No team runs the football any more than the Baltimore Ravens. So what other running back, what other situation could be better than where J.K. Dobbins is?
I think only
Lamar's
one,
took a step back this year.
The only one that would make whoever the top running back is, Spiller, Breece, whatever, the only one that would make me pause slightly is Buffalo. If one of those guys went to Buffalo with Josh Allen and how much they need a running back, that would be the one team, especially if it was first-round draft capital.
See, my only counterpoint to that is short yardage. Josh Allen gets a ton of carries. He gets a ton of carries in the red zone.
I don't know that they want him to, though. I think long-term they would rather their running back do that.
And I think the same thing with Lamar Jackson. Him getting banged up. I know it was JOK that twisted ankle this year, but he's going into this is it. He's in his 5th year option this year. So if they don't resign him this offseason, which I probably expect them to do, even both cases, if they don't or if they do, they got to protect the asset. They're going to have to roll back a little bit on Lamar Jackson and make him progress a little bit as a passer because he has not progressed. He has to take a step back from rushing and take a step forward in passing.
Right.
Which you said regress in rushing or regress in passing.
Yeah. So they're going to have to get that. In certain situations, the running back is going to get a little bit more involved. And I think J.K. Dobbins is going to make that transition a little bit easier. So again, one of my favorite buys in this offseason. Where's the price tag? I'm sure it's all over the place. But what I'm saying is get involved.
If
You know
you
what I
can,
mean?
if you
Stay
can get him,
involved.
if you can get him at price or below price, which your market value is around 2 first-round draft picks, go make that trade. Is what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
100%.
and if it's above that, you're probably overpaying a little bit. So just try to get it at or below that.
A January 2022 way too early prediction for 9 months, not even 11, 12 months from now is like I think J.K. Dobbins will finish as a top 7, top 6 fantasy football running back
awesome.
in the 2022-2023 season. So
Then I would take JK then over Brees if that's the case.
I'm in.
I'm just a firm believer, and that's why I bought everywhere. And again, the price range has been so varied. One I got over in a guy pretty good at the end because again I made that trade right when
What was that, like week
championship.
3, 4, 5? Or
No, it was like later. It was like right after Pat Freiermuth had his second big game in a row because I traded Pat Freiermuth too. That was it. He originally
gave up on Debo that quick.
he originally declined the trade, but he had no tight end, and he wanted to make this championship push. He ended up, I got his 22 first. He ended up getting eliminated first round, so it helps me. But like he just wanted to make this push, and his running back went down. He had no other running back. Something happened to his receiver was down. He needed another receiver, and I was like, he wanted Saquon. And Saquon was like, dude, he's pricey.
Yeah,
selling him, and he offered me Debo, and then he offered me J.K. Dobbins in his first.
And those are the pressure points that make great trades happen for people.
Freiermuth was the deal breaker.